Hey, what's up you guys? This is Sentai22 here with a Super Famicom game review for you. And today I'll be checking out the first Sailor Moon game for the Super Famicom, aka the Super Nintendo. Now, for a lot of us growing up, Sailor Moon was our first introduction into the world of anime. Me personally, it was G-Force, or Gatchaman as you guys like to call it. Same goes with Speed Racer, but Sailor Moon was actually my third anime series to watch, and I have to say, probably one of the best anime series of the 90s. I mean, this show really inspired a lot of young girls to do a lot of great things. I mean, sure, there were a lot of girl TV shows at that time, but it wasn't really like Sailor Moon. This series really showed you that female superheroes really did work, and I mean, it was an incredible series. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought it was just gonna be an average girl type show, but it was really awesome. I mean, it really had a big influence on pop culture. The fact that the Bare Naked Ladies referenced Sailor Moon in one of the songs was really something. And you guys know which song I'm talking about. So yeah, I mean, really awesome series. I mean, these girls really knew how to kick butt against the evil forces of the Negaverse, as well as the other evil forces that came earlier on in the Sailor Moon series. So, now for those of you who are wondering which is my favorite Sailor Scout, I would have to say Lita, Sailor Jupiter. Because, I mean, she was the quote-unquote badass. I mean, she was a tomboy, but at the same time, she had that kind of feminine personality. He looks just like my boyfriend, you know? So, yeah, I mean, she rocked, I'll tell you that for sure. My second favorite would have to be Amy, Sailor Mercury. I mean, she was the brains of the operation. You could say she was like the Billy of the Sailor Scouts. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the 2013 Sailor Moon revival. Can't wait for next year. So the reason why I am saying the English characters' names instead of the Japanese names, the original names, is because I'm used to the English version of Sailor Moon. I mean, sure, I watched the Japanese versions online, but I'm more used to the English version. And it's really because I grew up with Sailor Moon in English, in the English dub. So it's just not the same. But, even though the dubbing was great in Sailor Moon, I did not like the whole censorship of the dubbing. I mean, the fact that they didn't air certain episodes of Sailor Moon, and also the fact that they had to change certain characters' genders and also their sexualities was really disappointing to me. Especially when Cloverway dubbed the second season of Sailor Moon, they changed Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune's sexuality. Of course, in the original Japanese version, they were lesbians, but in the English version, they were cousins. So they would actually prefer incest over lesbianism? Come on, Cloverway. Really? Now, throughout the Super Famicom's lifespan, there have been different variations of Sailor Moon games. Like here, this is a beat 'em up game, Sailor Moon beat 'em up game. There's also, besides that, there's also puzzle games, 2D fighters, and your RPGs. Now, if you guys want me to review those Sailor Moon games, please let me know in the comments, and of course, which is your favorite Sailor Scout. So, alright, as you can see in the design, you have all of the Sailor Moon, you got all of the Sailor Scouts, and you also got the cats as well. You have Luna, you got Artemis, you got Sailor Moon, Sailor Mercury, Sailor Jupiter, Sailor Saturn, Sailor Venus, and of course you got Tuxedo Mask. Hey, what's up, meatball head? So, yeah. So I'm gonna pop this into my Super Nintendo and let's get started now, shall we? So, here we go. Alright, now as you can see, I have the game all set up on my Super Nintendo. Now you're probably asking yourselves, hey Sentai22, I thought the Super Famicom games weren't supposed to work on the Super Nintendo. Well, that's because if you look inside the cartridge slot, you'll notice that there used to be two tabs there. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's the tab right there. I took a plier and just pretty much yanked it off, and now I can play Super Famicom games now. Now, for those of you who live outside of the US, European countries I'm referring to, you guys have the same model design as the Super Famicom. You cannot play those games because the PAL version is region locked by the voltage. So if you try to put a Super Famicom game in a PAL version of the Super Nintendo, it's not going to work. You really need to do some really hard modding for it to get to work. But for us here in the US, you can just take the two tabs out and you're ready to go. Okay, right now I'm going to transition to my video, to my capture card, so here we go. Now when you pop in the game into the system, you hear a very familiar voice from Serena herself, plus a 16-bit rendition of the Sailor Moon theme song. Now, the game was developed by Angel Time, which was a subsidiary of Bandai, which you guys already know are the ones responsible for creating the Power Ranger games for the Nintendo systems, as well as the Jetman game, which I reviewed recently. You can pick from one of the 5 Sailor Scouts. Obviously, you guys know which scout I'm going to pick. Sadly, Tuxedo Mask isn't an unplayable character. Or is he? You can also select 2-player mode so you and a friend can live out those favorite TV moments. Now the game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, as I mentioned. These types of games were very popular in the late 80s to early 90s, and with Streets of Rage and Final Fight hitting the console scene, it's no wonder Angel Time wanted a piece of the beat-em-up pie. Though I don't know why they decided to go with the side-scrolling beat-em-up with Sailor Moon, since aside from Sailor Jupiter, none of the Sailor Scouts don't really know how to fight. I mean, if you see a few episodes of Sailor Moon, I think one episode where Sailor Moon actually punches a guy in the gym or something, I can't remember, but aside from them, they don't really have any physical abilities other than their powers. So, although maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I haven't seen the Japanese versions, the ones that didn't get released in the US, so I'm not really sure. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a really fun game, but the thing is, Sailor Moon doesn't work as a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Maybe as an RPG, but a side-scrolling beat-em-up? But oh well, it is a really fun game regardless. Now, just like on the show, each Sailor Scout has different attacks, 2 each. If you hold Y on your Super NES controller, you get a blast attack. If you press Y and B together, you get more of a combo attack, but keep in mind that if you hit the enemy, your health bar depletes. But luckily, if you miss the enemy, you don't really deplete your health at all. And just like any other side-scrolling beat-em-up, you pick up food from the floor to replenish your energy. But unlike the meat and the chickens you pick up off the floor like in Final Fight or Streets of Rage, you can pick up cakes and sundaes. I love me a sundae. Now, the level designs are your standard beat-em-up levels, from the city levels to the weird demon dimensions. Here, for example, you see the game center entrance where Serena and her friends hang out. I almost turned invisible for a few seconds, but don't worry about it, it's just one glitch. I don't think there's not that many glitches in the game. Now, I forgot to mention, like in many side-scrolling beat-em-ups, you can pick up any inanimate objects and beat them to a pulp with. Unfortunately, in Sailor Moon you can't, but thankfully you still got your powers anyway, although it would be really awesome if Sailor Jupiter had a bat. As for the enemies in the game, they're not really that much of a challenge or in the same level as Streets of Rage or Final Fight, but don't let their weaknesses fool you, as the enemies of 3 can really pack quite a punch at the same time. When you don't use the controller, each Sailor Scout has sort of a waiting pose, like for example, Sailor Jupiter looks like she's about to get arrested. It's cool and all, but there's some that are just awkward. For example, here's Sailor Mercury's waiting pose. You see, Sailor Mercury, you should have gone to the bathroom. Now you're about to get hit by a train driven by a panda. Now, the music in the game doesn't really match certain levels. For example, in this level here, does it really scream bakery to you? Now, when I go to a bakery, I want to hear some happy music. I don't want to hear something like this. In a way, the music is telling you, don't eat sweets or you'll turn fat. Bubbly, fat, bubbly, obese. If you lose all of your 3 lives, you can still continue up to 3 times. If you use all of your continues, it's game over and you'll have to start the game from the beginning. Now, lastly, the final bosses of each level. Now, each boss is sort of predictable, while some are just really difficult to beat, that you really lose your 3 lives in order to beat them. Like, for example, I'm going to beat the final boss of the first level, which is a cat-like monster thing. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, do I have to read Japanese in order to play this game? Believe it or not, no. As a matter of fact, there is hardly any translation whatsoever. Just like any other beat-em-up game, you just beat every person you see and you're on your merry little way. Final verdict, if you're a big fan of Sailor Moon, I definitely recommend this awesome beat-em-up. However, for those of you non-Sailor Moon fans, will have to look elsewhere because this game is not really that much of a challenge. If you're just curious, then by all means I definitely recommend it. They're very common on eBay. They go for like around 20 to 12 bucks depending on the seller. I mean, it's a really cool game. Now, for those of you who are wondering, what is the difference between the Super Famicom version of the Sailor Moon game and the Mega Drive version, or the Sega Genesis version, is that unlike Angel Time, this was developed by another developer, and also the music and the graphics are a lot better. Also, in the Mega Drive version, it is less censored than the Super Famicom version. But that one is a little bit rare, so you may have to fork in a couple of bucks to get that version. I remember going on eBay scouting around this version of the game, the Sega Mega Drive version of Sailor Moon that is. It costed around $600. I mean, wow. But if you can find that version of the game for a lesser price, I definitely recommend getting it. Alright guys, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this review of the first Sailor Moon game for the Super Famicom. So enjoy this last final boss battle between Jupiter and this cat-like monster. Enjoy!